like to welcome you today to the Powell-Liberty Historical Society for our February 2022 program, which we have titled For the Love of Chocolate. This program is being pre-recorded for viewing on February the 14th and after. Our speaker today is Gretchen Curtis, who has presented 2 prior programs for us, and she is a retired pediatric nurse after 36 years, mostly in Denver, Colorado, and currently she is a resident of Powell and Lakeside. There is no better day than February the 14th, Valentine's Day, to talk about chocolate. If you enjoy eating chocolate in any of its forms, this program is for you. Gretchen will discuss the history of chocolate, where and how it's grown and harvested, its introduction as a treat for the wealthy, and how it became more widely distributed for the enjoyment of people around the globe. Whether you eat chocolate every day or only occasionally, you will smile at the chocolate wisdom featured throughout this slide presentation. Gretchen will end by explaining how you can maximize the health benefits of chocolate and tips for conducting your own taste testing based on percentage of cocoa butter. By the end of the program, we will all have a new appreciation for chocolate. Enjoy.
I'm delighted to be here today, February 2022, pre-recording this program that will be available on Valentine's Day. I have traveled to many different locations and had audiences all the way up to 80 people attend this program, and this is actually my 10th time to do it. So I always update each program, and there is some hot news about chocolate that just came out January 20th of this year. That'll be at the very end, but I'm going to quiz my limited small audience here and see if they can answer some questions along the way. So it will be as interactive as it can be with our audience of 3 people sitting in front of me. The rest of you will have to, I'll give them time to pause so you can see if you have a response to some of the questions that I ask. I never met a chocolate I didn't like. The reality is I have met chocolates I didn't like, but all of us probably have tasted some chocolates we didn't like, and we will perhaps talk about that as we move along in the program. Interspersed throughout the slides, I have these notes of wisdom. And so here are the ones about women. Chocolate is the #1 food craved by women. 69% of women in a report that was done, which I haven't cited, say they never or rarely feel guilty when they eat chocolate. And I say, hooray for you. 65% of women reported they eat chocolate at least weekly, and 15% of women reported eating chocolate daily. And I say, way to go. Well, the history of chocolate, cacao trees were, quote, discovered somewhere between 2,000 and 4,000 years ago in the tropical rainforests of America. And you can see with the yellow dots on the map, the areas where those cacao trees grow particularly well. The Mayans and Aztecs mixed ground cocoa seeds with water, vanilla, and spices to make a frothy, bitter drink. The beverage was thought to have aphrodisiac effects, and so it was widely consumed primarily by men. The ancient Mayans, by the 15th century, were using cacao beans as currency, and heroes were actually rewarded with cacao beans. Spaniards were introduced to chocolate as they came to the Americans exploring a route to riches and began to discover the joys of drinking chocolate in the 1500s. Now, the Spaniards didn't like the bitter taste, and so they added sugar and cinnamon to the beverage. Only the wealthy could afford the chocolate beverage, and so it had a relatively limited scope of people drinking that beverage. Now, about a century and a half later, in the mid-1600s, chocolate became known in France. By decree, no one but the members of the French aristocracy were allowed to drink it. So again, its consumption remained limited. The first chocolate house in the United Kingdom opened in London in 1657. Chocolate houses, and that's what they were known as, were places to enjoy a hot drink, discuss politics, socialize, and gamble. And my guess is that they were pretty gender specific. I doubt that there were many chocolate houses for women. But this is a very sexualized painting of a woman, a piece of art, enjoying chocolate in her boudoir. Wealthy Europeans used these special cups and pitchers made of fine bone china specifically for drinking chocolate. And sometime in antique shops, people will still find these chocolate sets. They may be called coffee sets, but there's a particular shape of them, and we know that they were used for drinking chocolate, not coffee. Well, by the late 1700s, the Industrial Revolution had brought changes that made the purchase of widespread solid chocolate candy available. And the first chocolate bar made of chocolate, cacao butter, and sugar was produced in England in 1847. So we've been enjoying chocolate for a long, long time in this world. Now, how did we move from chocolate beverage to confectionery chocolate? In 1875, Daniel Peter and Henri Nestle, you will recognize that name, introduced condensed milk to chocolate, which created a smooth, creamy milk chocolate. So milk chocolate became available after 1875. In the late 1800s, chocolate appeared not only in its candy bar form, but in powder form that could be purchased for making cakes, pastries, and added to ice cream. So in a relatively short amount of time, we're seeing great progression in the availability of chocolate in its many forms to appeal to a wider and wider distribution of individuals around the globe. As chocolate products became cheaper to make and buy by the beginning of the 20th century, advertisers introduced marketing aimed to boost consumption, particularly among women and children. You remember I talked about how it was mostly men who were drinking chocolate, and those individuals, those men who owned companies that were producing edible chocolates, knew there was a huge market that they could tap into among women and children. Here we have a little more chocolate humor or chocolate wisdom. I'll eat anything as long as it's chocolate. When the going gets tough, the tough eat chocolate. And nobody knows the truffles I've seen. The top photo of the brownies with walnuts, which is my favorite way to have brownies, has a little type of information here saying that the first known recipe for brownies appeared in the Sears and Roebuck catalog in 1897. Okay, let's talk a little bit about where chocolate comes from. The trees are called, their scientific name is the Theobroma cacao tree. And Theobroma cacao is translated the food of gods. And that is indeed what the Mexican and Aztecs called the chocolate powder that they used. Now, the cacao trees have very specific environmental requirements. They grow only within 15 degrees of the equator, north or south. They grow best in shade as opposed to open plantations. So they're better as understory trees. They grow 16 to 26 feet in height. They need temperature of 65 degrees Fahrenheit on a year-round basis. They need 80 inches of rain a year. And they produce for 75 to 100 years if they are healthy trees. So that is part of the reason that small cacao farms, cacao tree establishments are multi-generational, is if you take care of those trees, they will live for many years continuing to produce. Now, there are basically 4 varieties. The Forastero trees are the hardiest and make up approximately 90% of the trees from which we receive chocolate. The Criollo is the rarest. Less than 1% of chocolate comes from those trees. The Trinitario is a hybrid, less than 5%. And the Ariba is exclusively grown in Ecuador. This is a cacao tree, and you can see the pods hanging off of it. These are ripe pods. As I mentioned, 90% of the world's cacao is grown by 2.5 million farmers on 5 to 10 acre holdings. So these are definitely small farmers. What has happened over time is they have been purchased, and now large plantations have trees planted in rows in sunny locations, and they are less productive. The pods are more prone to diseases, and the chemical fertilizers that are used on those trees are impacting the environment negatively. Here you see a small farmer who's drying his harvested beans out in the open air on the ground. This is a nice photograph of a cacao tree fruit pod. The trees have small white pinkish flowers that are pollinated by flies. From those flowers, the fruit develops, which are hanging football-shaped pods that grow to about 8 to 10 inches long. That's a nice size cacao pod. These pods contain 30 to 50 seeds. Might sound like a lot, but that is only enough for 7 chocolate bars. So when you consider how many pods are needed to meet the demand for chocolate around the world, 1 pod needs to be accelerated in production. The pods are harvested by machetes, and then the machete is used to slice open the pod, revealing the seeds that are in the inside, here held together in a small, easily manipulated mass, similar to what you would find when you open a pumpkin or a squash. Beans have to ferment, and so they are dried in small plantations out in the open, either up on planks or down on the ground, left to dry for 5 days. In that process, they ferment, turning dark and aromatic. You see those in the farmer's hand, and then those are bagged up to go to the sale. Bean processing happens from the fermented beans by roasting in large rotating cylinders, which develops the aroma, flavor, and rich color of cacao beans. From those cacao beans that have been processed, the inside of the bean is now called the nib, N-I-B, nib. The nibs are ground by machinery into a non-alcoholic liquid that's called chocolate liqueur. This liqueur is the main ingredient in chocolate. You see it pouring there into some container that's not in view. Now that chocolate liqueur goes through another mechanizing process that squeezes out the cacao butter. And that's that clear fluid that you can see coming out of the pipe. The chocolate liqueur then goes through hydraulic presses minus the cacao butter, and it's pressed into a firm cake that is cooled, pulverized, and sifted to yield cacao powder. So from the process, the liqueur ends up with one product being the cacao powder and the other being the cacao butter. Now, while I'm on this slide, I want to point out that white chocolate is only made with cacao butter. White chocolate, by definition, federal regulations, cannot have chocolate powder in it. It would turn it dark, for one thing. But by federal regulation, to be called white chocolate, it has to have a 20% level of cacao butter in the product. So that's how white chocolate is defined. Well, the final preparation for eating chocolate, the cacao butter is mixed back with the cacao powder, milk, and sugar. And the concentration of chocolate is based on the amount of cacao powder in the recipe compared to those other ingredients. It goes through a process called conching, where heavy rollers, it's a little blurry, but heavy rollers swirl continuously through the mixture to develop the chocolate flavor based on the percentage of ingredients that have been mixed together. After the conching, chocolate is tempered by heating, cooling, and reheating it, and then it's ready to be poured into molds to make bars. And those bars are the product then that go to candy makers, chocolatiers around the world. Gives you an idea of why chocolate can be an expensive treat. If you're buying exceptionally pure chocolate. Before I move on, I want to see if you have any questions about the process going from a pod to edible chocolate that is now available to chocolatiers in the form of bars.
I'd like to know where most of the processing takes place.
In large processing plants that are located around the world. All large manufacturers of quality chocolates have large companies. So my guess is that, for example, Hershey's, their large processing plant, gets the bars. They don't actually get the raw beans. Most of that will be done in the countries of origin. Although there would be chocolatiers in Europe that would probably get raw beans. I've not had that question before.
So the raw beans are shipped from like South America or Central America to different parts of the world to the processing plant.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. They might stay within their own country if their own country has a processing plant, but the individual farmer, once he has harvested and dried his beans, he loads them into the sacks that you saw there, the jute sacks, for example, and then ships them off to a large city. And from there, they may go to a port and be shipped out as raw beans, or they might go to a large processing company in that particular country. Good question. Sherry.
In the process of the white chocolate, you're using the cocoa butter,
Correct.
and then I assume sugar is added to that
Yes.
in a solidifying period,
Right.
just like the chocolate.
Correct.
And it doesn't have any chocolate in it other than what is in the syrup, right?
Yes. It's in the cacao butter only. Right.
And how, I saw the pods originally were green,
Yes.
and they have to
Ripen to
till
yellow.
kind of a yellow stage before
Yes.
they're ready to
Right.
harvest.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Just like apples. All apples start out looking green, and then as they ripen, some turn yellow, some stay green, some turn red. So it's a similar process.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay, let's move on. Some more wisdom. There's nothing better than a good friend, except a good friend with chocolate. When life gets you down and nothing is going right, you always have a friend in chocolate. And then I love this last one. Chocolate is cheaper than therapy, and you don't need an appointment. That's why you should always keep chocolate available. You don't want to have to stop and go to the store to buy some. Okay, let's look at the average consumption of chocolate around the world in pounds per year consumed by people, not kilograms. And I want to see what are the top 10 chocolate consuming nations in the world. Let's identify 3. There are 3 of you here, so each of you think about what do you think, and they can be the same. What do you think are, let's say, among the top 5, and where does the U.S. rank in the top 10? Okay. Yes.
The United States.
The United States, you think is in the top 5, okay? Mm-hmm. France, okay. Uh-huh.
The Americas.
The Americas. Well, you're saying the United States and Canada.
I'm talking
probably.
about South America and Central America where they're grown.
Oh, okay, where the growers are. Okay, let's be surprised.
Yeah.
This is a report by Forbes in 2015. Pounds per year per person. And look at those first 6. Switzerland, Germany, Ireland, United Kingdom, Norway, Sweden. United Kingdom probably, I should just put Britain there because Ireland is listed separately. Australia is down here. The United States is 9th in consumption, and France is 10th.
We
On
didn't
that
do too
list.
well.
We can eat more. Bring it up.
Yes.
Yeah, we want a higher score.
Asian cultures are very low in the consumption of chocolate. And the West Africans and probably those people who are living in the Central Americas would rather sell their chocolate, their cacao beans, rather than eat it. So very interesting distribution, focused primarily on Northern Europe, Northern Western Europe for chocolate consumption. Okay, let's think a minute about our childhood chocolate memories. What are your earliest chocolate memories? Anybody want to share one? Jerry.
I think just chocolate chips in our house for the cookies. We didn't have a lot of candy bars or chocolates even at Valentine's Day. But I can remember tearing into a package of the morsels and taking a few out before the cookies.
I've been known to do that.
Anybody else want to share a memory?
The Easter baskets full of
Easter
chocolate
basket.
bunnies.
Yes, the
Easter
chocolate.
eggs that are chocolate wrapped in
Yes.
foil.
Yes, yeah. So there was a special feeling about chocolate. It was kind of unique to be able to have that as a treat. The advertisement for Nestle's with the children looking at the chocolate chip cookies says, your children will wonder what takes longer, the 12 minutes to bake or the 2 minutes to cool. Chocolate chip cookies are my favorite to this day. I grew up in a house where my grandmother was there every day as the person providing child care, and she made the best chocolate chip cookies. So those are among my favorite memories. Now we're going to talk a little bit about how chocolate really has expanded, at least in the United States. The availability of chocolate when I was a child was kind of those special holidays and chocolate chip cookies or, treats like that, birthday cakes that might be chocolate if that was your favorite. But that is no longer the case. Chocolate is prevalent everywhere. So we're going to do a quick view of how chocolate is now available in at least the United States. So when I walk down the cereal aisle, this is what I see. It's amazing to me. When I went to 4-H camp when I was 12 years old, there were little boxes of cereal in the morning, and Frosted Flakes was my favorite, Rice Krispies, etc. But there were Cocoa Krispies. At the end of the week, when they weren't supplying new boxes, that was all that was left was Cocoa Krispies. And none of us as 12-year-olds really were too keen on eating Cocoa Krispies. So it's amazing to me. But obviously they must sell because they are on the shelves. Of course, there are other breakfast treats besides cold cereal that are chocolate donuts, chocolate waffles, all kinds of cocoa dusted French toast. You're only limited by your imagination. Ice cream flavors. Now, I selected just one brand, and I selected Toffs because it is the ice cream maker in Sandusky and the favorite at Lakeside. These are the flavors that have chocolate in them from one manufacturer of ice cream. Now, when I was a kid, it was chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, or Neapolitan would put them all together. And now you have quite the amazing array of ice creams to choose from. We didn't mention an early memory, but Halloween, of course, is a very important holiday in this country. And chocolate is one of the favorite candies to be distributed, or candy bars. In our household, I was slow to eat chocolate. My parents and one of my two siblings would wolf theirs down. So I would hide my chocolate in my underwear drawer in my bedroom so that I didn't have to share with those other people who were wanting to consume more. And Easter was mentioned. In 2017, I found this statistic last night from the National Confectioners Association that 90 million chocolate bunnies were produced in the United States for consumption. Yes, Sherry.
I was always jealous of the kids that got the solid bunnies because mine were usually
Hollow. Yes, yes. In looking for information about chocolate bunnies at Easter time, there was this statistic that they surveyed people, and I don't know how many they surveyed, but 69% of them said you should always eat a chocolate Easter bunny starting with the ears. Starting with the ears. Valentine's Day, of course, is a big retail business for chocolate candies, particularly heart-shaped boxes. 36 million heart-shaped boxes are sold every year. That's my earliest memory of fancy chocolates coming into my house growing up. My father would buy my mother a heart-shaped box of candies, and we would all get to select as soon as they were opened. After mother chose her first one, we all then got a chance to pick our first one. Americans spend over $1 billion on candy each Valentine's. And the first Valentine's Day candy box was introduced by Richard Cadbury. Now, this is a cartoon I wanted to share with you. It represents an after Valentine's sale of box candy at 50% off. Okay, so the first panel says, you lived your whole life. She's holding up this beautiful box of candies. You lived your whole life preparing to be someone's Valentine, and no one picked you. And then, in desperation, middle panel, she cries, I know that what you have inside is still just as rich and valuable. I know how much you have to give. I vow to look past the label society has stuck on you and savor every moment of our time together. In the last panel, she's walking out with about 10 heart-shaped boxes of candy saying, goodbye, empty calories. Hello, empathy calories. Whitman's Samplers candies were founded in 1842. It's one of the very earliest of the candy manufacturers. The sampler was introduced in 1912, and it is among the best-selling boxes of chocolate in the USA even today. The guide, of course, to fillings is printed on the inside list or inside lid. I always look very closely because I don't like anything that has coconut in it. So I'm more for looking for the nuts. Photos of some tempting chocolate treats. Beautiful chocolate candies, sometimes boxed in very elegant ways. And back to chocolate chip cookies, some wisdom. A grandma is admired for her love, her patience, and her chocolate chip cookies. Best friends share their chocolate chip cookies. I'm very reluctant to share my chocolate chip cookies. Nothing comforts like a warm chocolate chip cookie. Coming home from school when I was little and Nan had just made fresh chocolate chip cookies, there was nothing better than a cookie with a glass of milk. Dipping chocolate has become an elegant way to celebrate special events. A lot of wedding receptions will have chocolate fountains, buffets at elegant restaurants during the holiday period will have chocolate fountains. So there is this wisdom that says everything tastes better dipped in chocolate. I dream in chocolate. Warning, chocoholic in residence at the front door. Chocolate decisions. Shall you have your chocolate hot or cold? And my answer would be yes. There is no question there. Yesterday, well, part of it is when I am getting ready to do this presentation and I review the slides again and I add some to them, my chocolate consumption goes up in the 2 or 3 days around it. So yesterday I had in the afternoon some leftover coffee from the morning time. So I added more half and half and some really nice chocolate chai tea powder, made a wonderful afternoon pick-me-up. All I really need is love, but a little chocolate now and then doesn't hurt. Advice from Lucy in the Peanuts cartoon strips. And of course, who doesn't like Ohio Buckeyes? Another favorite chocolate treat. Some interesting information about Hershey's Kisses. Kisses were introduced July 1st, 1907, and I have among my collection of chocolate things this little teddy bear holding a chocolate kiss, and that year in 2007, the flag had 100 years written on it. One kiss has 25 calories, so if you're really on a strict diet and have a great deal of willpower, you can count out how many kisses am I going to allow myself today. The plume, that's what it's called, became a registered trademark in 1924. Interesting, kisses were not produced between 1942 and 49 because silver foil was rationed during and after World War II. I would have thought, it was because the chocolate was rationed, which it was, but it was really the silver foil that was rationed for that reason. Kisses were wrapped in colored foil, red and green, for the first time in 1962. And then it took Hershey's another 24 years before they realized, well, they could use red foil for Valentine's Day. Seems to me their marketing department was not quite on the ball there that took them that long. We know now, of course, at Easter time, they get wrapped in pink and lavender. Hershey's can make 70 million kisses a day at their factory, which operates 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Isn't that amazing to think about that? 70 million kisses a day. And I don't see too many leftover marked down packages of kisses when I go to the grocery store. More interesting facts about kisses. In 1990, Hershey's created Kisses with almonds, and that's this little character over here. In 1993, hugs were added, where mini kisses wrapped, in the hug of white chocolate. That's what this is, because it actually says hugs on it. Dark kisses didn't arrive until 2003. So they were milk chocolate only for a very long time. If you've been to Hershey, Pennsylvania, or seen pictures, you know that their street lamps are shaped like kisses. And the Hershey's Kissmobile, I've had the pleasure of seeing that. It travels around the country during good weather and particularly visits children's hospitals. So when I was at Denver Children's Hospital, they came and sat out front, and families, children who were able to get out of their beds, and staff went down to have a look at that very interesting mobile. This is just a runway picture of a dress made out of silver foil and Hershey's wrappers. I thought that was very creative. Okay, Chocolomania. How have we gone beyond just food with chocolates? Well, it is hard to look at a magazine section in a retail store, be it a grocery store or a big box store, and not see at least one magazine that has chocolate on the cover. Magazines definitely caught on to, you can increase your sales in any month if you're featuring something about chocolate. Magazine advertising, I became very interested in looking at magazine advertising around holiday time, specifically for the chocolate advertisements. There are so many at Christmas time, and how they use their chocolates to tell a story, really, in just a one-page magazine ad. Exceedingly creative. I mean, this is the chocolate pouring out over the Pepperidge Farm cookies called Perfect Harmony, but they have the oversized mountain of dripping chocolate with, you know, this beautiful woman holding up one chocolate. Ghirardelli. Up here, you may not be able to read it. It says 60% cacao, 100% impressive, with the creamy liquid spilling out. Over here, the Hershey's Cacao Reserve. Hershey's had to come up with a plan to have an entree into the high-end European chocolate market. The Swiss chocolates, the Italian chocolates, the French chocolates. So they created a line that was called the Cacao Reserve, and they limited their chocolate to particular plantations or places that they came from, and limited to one tree production within there. And so they have here, it was called the Cacao Reserve. They have a 35% milk chocolate, premium milk chocolate, and this is a 65% dark chocolate. And they called the ad, "Explore the finer points of exotic chocolate indulgence." This isn't just ordinary Hershey's chocolate. This is exotic chocolate indulgence. And the import stamp down here says "Explore Cacao Reserve." Then it's not very hard to find advertisements that kind of cross over into the romantic line of marketing chocolate. This is obviously at the Golden Gate Bridge. She's sitting here holding a big bar of Ghirardelli chocolates, and it says "Lose yourself in the dark." Again, promoting their dark chocolate. This one over here, I love this one. You have to look very closely. When I first saw the ad in a magazine, I didn't realize that there was this back vision of a woman sleeping, very beautiful, nice, thick, romantic looking lips. And here's Dove in the foreground with a spoon, and it says, "The act of spooning has never been more gratifying." And the bottom line here, "Your favorite Dove ice cream awaits, snuggled beneath a silky sheet of rich dark chocolate ganache. Savor the moment." And another very clear Dove, "Seduction by chocolate." Of course, cookbooks. You can find chocolate cookbooks in any thrift store. And when I go to a thrift store and look at books, I will specifically look for chocolate books. I'll pick them up, look through. Do they have any interesting photos in them that I want to add to my slide program? But no shortage of those. Among my limited collection, I've gotten rid of many that I had. I have the original 1934 Hershey's cookbook reproduction. And then this one I've saved, one because it's little, doesn't take up much space on my cookbook shelf. And it's Forrest Gump. "Life is like a box of chocolates." Yeah. Chocolate movies, films. You see Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, an old movie, but fun to watch. Books. There's a new series of books I ran across last night. They're called The Chocolate Murder Mysteries. And there are 24 books in that series. I'm not going to read any of them, but I thought, that they do the same thing with knitting, as the knitting murder mysteries. So you can sell books if you find a particular niche. This is probably my favorite movie about chocolate. Have any of you seen this? It is one of those grand MGM movies of dancers on these elaborate, stairwells, and this is just incredible. I've only seen it once. I had to get it on reserve through my public library, but it is well worth watching. And then we had My Fair Lady. Now that's a movie about chocolate, really. Professor Higgins coached Eliza to learn her vowels with the reward of chocolate candies. If she hadn't gotten those chocolate candies, there could have been a totally different ending to that movie. Totally different. Paint colors. One day I took some time and pulled out paint cards at a hardware store. And these were, just in that one hardware store, the different names for paints that were related to chocolate. So you really could dream in chocolate if you bought one of these colors for your bedroom. Beauty products. This is a perfume spray, 1.35 ounce for $60. The audacious scent has notes of citrus layered over a rich, dreamy middle of hot, dense chocolate and cacao, melded with a base of sexy musk and sandalwood. Talk about marketing. And then Hershey's developed a sweet milk chocolate lip balm. There's chocolate shampoo. This one over here by Philosophy is a mint chocolate chip cream shampoo, shower gel, and bubble bath. And there's chocolate soap. Again, it has cacao butter and cacao powder in it. This, to me, was the greatest of all. This horse, this is a champion quarter horse stallion from Myers Horse Farm of Ashland, Ohio. His name was Zips Chocolate Chip. And these are the names of the colts that were sired from that stallion. Yep.
Those are good.
Yep.
Promise me chocolate.
Promise me chocolate. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. He's a beautiful horse. Okay. Chocolate wisdom. Promise me anything but give me chocolate. The key to my heart is chocolate. Money can't buy love, but it can buy chocolate. That was the previous cartoon featured that. Boost the economy, buy more chocolate. Friends share laughter, tears, and lots of chocolate. Well, these are some humorous health benefits of chocolate. Equal parts of dark and light chocolate make a balanced diet. Milk chocolate is a dairy product. The 4 food groups are milk chocolate, dark chocolate, white chocolate, and truffles. A chocolate a day keeps insanity at bay and works better. More works better, yeah. And the preservatives in chocolate will make you look younger. And then I have a little pillow that says, chocolate isn't a vegetable? Well, there really are some health benefits to chocolate. Researchers have discovered that dark chocolate, notice that dark is in bold, dark chocolate helps to decrease LDL cholesterol oxidation. It reduces the stickiness of platelets and the risk of blood clots. It increases blood flow in arteries. It may lower high blood pressure, and it may improve mood by boosting serotonin and endorphin levels in the brain. Similar things here may boost memory, attention span, reaction time, problem solving by increasing blood flow to the brain. It contains several minerals that are important to bodily function, and it neither causes nor aggravates acne. You know, there were a lot of, when I was a teenager, there was a lot of belief that you shouldn't eat chocolate because if you were a teenager, it worsened your acne, and that is proven not to be true. This photograph of Katharine Hepburn riding her bicycle in small print, it says, "What you see before you, my friend, is the result of a lifetime of chocolate." The recommendations are dark chocolate. It has the highest level of flavonoids, so you should focus on the highest level of cacao that is pleasing to you to eat. Now, my mother never got beyond milk chocolate. She said that all the rest of it was way too bitter. It has taken me a while to enjoy dark chocolate, but now it is my favorite. I don't eat white milk chocolate at all. Well, I never have eaten white chocolate. You should select chocolate made with cacao butter and not those that are made with hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oil. The cacao butter is better for your heart than these other products. And because milk binds to the antioxidants in chocolate, you should eat your dark chocolate, but not drink it with milk. So avoid the combination of milk with dark chocolates. So don't have a cup of hot cocoa along with a piece of dark candy or a cake that was made with dark chocolate. Health warnings. Dark chocolate does contain a natural chemical called tyramine, which may trigger migraines, but the data is inconclusive. My husband doesn't drink coffee and eat chocolate at the same time because of the effects of the caffeine. 1 ounce of dark chocolate contains 18 milligrams of caffeine as opposed to an 8-ounce cup of brewed coffee, which has 135 milligrams. So you have to watch the amount of caffeine you're consuming in 1 day's time. 1 ounce of dark chocolate, for some people that's enough. If they have a sweet tooth, that's 1 ounce is enough. For other people, 1 ounce is not enough. They want 3 ounces. And of course, overeating chocolate, whatever the percentage, can lead to obesity. Eating dark chocolates does not give you a pass for limiting the amount. I liked this photo because it shows variation in color of chocolate products. Okay, here's to the finer things in life. Chocolate, chocolate, and chocolate. I'm going on a starvation diet. No chocolate for 24 hours. Some things in life are better rich, coffee, chocolate, and men. It's never too early or too late for chocolate. And again, I never met a chocolate I didn't like. I take my days 1 chocolate at a time. I'm a woman of many moods and all of them crave chocolate. Lose yourself in a good chunk of chocolate. And carpe cacao, seize the chocolate. Okay, here's the recent news from the world of chocolate as of January 20th, 22. Do any of you know what that recent news is? I had heard about it.
I had too, and I forgot it.
Well, I had heard about it, and that's why I went online last night to find out specifically when did that news come out and what were the specifics of that.
M&Ms have changed.
M&M characters have been remade, redesigned in terms of their appearance and their personalities. This is the previous, and this is the new. So you can see they didn't do anything drastic. But I'll see if I can talk through this without looking at the next slide. Notice the color of their legs and arms, the skin tones. The hue has been changed to a universal kind of off-white tone, so we're not thinking that they're all Caucasian characters. The footwear of the two women, the two female characters, which were green and brown. You see green had go-go shoes, dancing boots, and brown had very high heels. Those have been modified. Green now has tennis shoes, and the heels have been lowered for brown. They removed the prefixes related to gender. So they're no longer called Ms. Green and Ms. Brown or Mr. of the other colors. They're just green, brown. And the green and brown, if you look closely, they lost their exaggerated eyelashes. Make them not so flirty looking. Now their personalities changed too. Brown and green, the two female characters, are going to be less adversarial with each other. Orange, who was the anxious character, is going to embrace his anxieties as who he is, his true self. He's anxious, it's okay. And red is going to be less of a bully and more friendly. So, after 12 years of our getting to know the upper characters, we now have new ones that are only changed in subtleties, but changed nonetheless. What is the future of chocolate business? It's expected to grow from its current $150 million, I left off the billion. Grow from its current 150 billion annual worldwide industry. The U.S. produces 5 million tons of consumer chocolates a year. But the concerns for the market, and these are very real concerns, deforestation in the growing regions, increase in fungal diseases and insects that are going to be impacting the trees, and the impact of climate change. All of those could significantly decrease production of chocolate seeds. Well, in closing, the other 9 times I've done this program, we've actually conducted a chocolate tasting. In our current state of the pandemic, we are not doing that, but these are the tips I wanted to give you. You should always taste chocolate at room temperature, and I didn't finish that top number 1. Chocolate should not be refrigerated. It causes it to get what's called a bloom on it, that kind of powdery look to the surface. That doesn't alter the taste. You can still eat it, but it's not very pleasing to look at. So you should not refrigerate chocolate bars. When you're tasting chocolate, I think the best way to do it is to get at least 3, if not 4, different chocolate percentages in front of you. Omit white chocolate, that's not really part of the process. So you've got a milk chocolate, maybe a 25%, 45%, and then something definitely 70 or above. And then taste each one, starting with the lowest percentage. Use water and unsalted crackers to cleanse your mouth between each taste, and then go on to the next higher one. These are the things you want to be attentive to. What is the appearance of the chocolate? Should be lustrous and evenly colored with a glossy surface. The aroma should smell rich and fragrant. When you break the piece of chocolate, you should be able to hear a snap and it shouldn't crumble. When you put it in your mouth, don't immediately start eating it. Just put it in your mouth, and it should feel smooth and creamy, not greasy or gritty, and should melt evenly in your mouth. So you're just going to kind of hold it there for a little bit. The flavor should taste rich, full-bodied, and chocolatey, not too bitter or too sweet. And then you should enjoy the aftertaste. It should linger in your mouth pleasantly without feeling it's acidic or has a really sharp quality. And these last two are the issues that I think most people have with dark chocolate. If you get up above 75%, most Americans will find that it tastes very bitter and has a very sharp quality about it. If you want to explore dark chocolates, try a different maker, a different producer. So if you've had products from Valrhona, it's a French chocolatier, try a Swiss chocolate in the similar dark range. Try a dark, high percentage chocolate that maybe has hints of fruit in it. Raspberry, cherry, something like that. Even chili powders. Chili powders are interesting in the flavor that they give to chocolate. So explore. That's the whole pleasure of enjoying chocolate, is don't feel like you're stuck, because there's so many delicious chocolates available these days. This is the most recent ad I found just a couple weeks ago. It's a Godiva chocolate ad, and it says, "This Valentine's Day, say it with chocolate." So I invite all of you to do that. Thanks for being a part of today's program. Those of you who are listening online, go out, buy some good chocolate, and try it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, are there questions from my audience?
Not a question, but in a timely advertisement, not an advertisement, a little piece on the news recently, within the last 2 weeks, about how best to eat chocolate. And just as you said, savor the taste. Don't bite it and chew it and wolf it down in one gulp.
Right.
Keep it in your mouth and let it melt. And it'll also encourage you to eat less of it.
Yes.
You'll be satisfied with one.
With a smaller amount.
A smaller amount. And in fact, apparently that's the way the French eat their chocolates.
Back in terms of when you're doing the smelling of it, hold it up to your nose. But one of the things you can do if the aroma isn't apparent right away, is to just rub it a little bit with your thumb to warm it up just a tiny bit, and then smell it. Again, using your senses to enhance the experience of enjoying chocolate while you're eating it. Yes.
I have a sister-in-law that sent me, at the time she was living in Arizona, it was a solid piece of chocolate, but it was the Aztec with the chili powder included in it.
Yes.
And it really does give you quite a little
Jolt.
It was very, very good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is your favorite chocolate?
I don't really have a favorite chocolate. The reality is I don't eat a lot of chocolate. I'm more of a bread and pasta fan.
Me too.
If I'm going out for a special dinner at a restaurant, we'll order dessert. If they bring anything in addition to chocolate, I will almost always choose the other rather than a chocolate dessert.
Okay.
I do like hot chocolate, and so I try to buy a better grade than, Old Miss packets or Swiss Miss packets of hot chocolate. So I don't have a favorite. But
Tend to buy a certain brand of chocolate.
No, I don't.
Bar or...
No, I do try to. Probably my favorite place to buy chocolate bars is Trader Joe's, because Trader Joe's does carry international chocolate bars. So, and they're not all that expensive there. So I'll try their Valrhona or their black and green. It's another environmentally conscious company that I think makes a good chocolate product. I don't shop places where I could readily buy Swiss chocolates, so I don't have a favorite Swiss chocolate. I'm sure they're good. How about any of you? Do you have favorite chocolate?
Most any.
Most any.
I'm like you, I like chocolate, but I pass it up for vanilla any day.
Mhm.
I'd rather have a white cake than a chocolate cake.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't
Vanilla.
believe her.
I said I like it, and I'll eat chocolate, of course. But
You have evolved. When you were young, that was true, but now you eat chocolate.
one of the disadvantages is knowing the cameraman.
Like for desserts, I would choose a flan. I would choose a
Yeah.
cheesecake, a custard pie, any kind of fruit pie
Yeah, I
over
agree.
any chocolate dessert, no matter how delicious it looked. You know, if they bring the tray around to you, I just would rather
Mhm.
enjoy a simpler
Mhm.
flavor
Yeah.
in my dessert.
I think one thing he's referring to when they began to make all these colorful candy kisses, for the holidays, I would buy them under the pretense of decorating, so that'll look pretty in this candy bowl. And of course, every time we passed by, we'd eat one. So I enjoy candy, but
Uh-huh.
My husband is a super chocoholic.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He has a little container of dark Nestle chocolate chips,
Mm-hmm.
and he takes it with him all around the house and snacks on them.
so he's
on his
never away.
computer. I know, all day long. I mean,
I thought you were going to say he puts them in the car and takes them with him when he goes someplace, but he
no.
carries them around in the house from
Usually
room to
up in the
room.
office. I mean, he's up there, and there's a TV up there, and
Uh-huh.
so
And he's slim and trim, so
yeah.
maybe
Well,
he's saving
and he
each
read
bite.
all those health tips that you mentioned about how
Mhm.
good dark chocolate is.
Mhm.
So he's a firm believer.
Yeah.
In making sure he gets those flavonoids on a regular
Yes.
daily basis.
Yeah.
My husband had a heart attack, and 1 ounce of the dark chocolate a day
Uh-huh.
is something
So,
they
I
suggest
recommend.
Mhm.
if you like chocolate at all.
Uh-huh.
And so, but he has it in the freezer.
Oh, yeah.
Shouldn't do that, huh?
No.
Not in the freezer.
No.
It doesn't need to be to
No.
preserve it. So.
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is
it's
he
not
hiding
needed
it
for
from
the
you?
preservation.
Well, no, you know where it is.
It will have a more
I don't like dark. Sorry.
it will have a more flavorful feel in his mouth and melt better if it's at room temperature.
Yeah. I don't know if he even remembers it's in there. I mean, he did for a while,
Uh-huh.
and he wants to know it's there, but I'm not sure it's a regular part of his routine.
Mhm.
I have a question. You showed a picture of the ice cream company from up near Sandusky, but do you know about Cincinnati's homegrown Grater's ice cream?
I certainly do. We lived very close to the Graders over
Yeah,
here.
and did you ever go to the store where you could watch them,
Yes.
the factory, and
Yes.
pour the chocolate in there, huge chunks of raspberry
Yes.
cream?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were talking about the tasting, it just reminded me of wine tastings. And I'm curious, do the manufacturers have tasting rooms and invite customers in, or is that something you just do on your own?
I'm not aware of
Like if you went to Hershey's, would they?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they have a tasting room and have different. There are wineries that have wine tastings that around particular holidays, like I wouldn't be surprised, like at Valentine's, is that they would do a wine and chocolate tasting together. I mean, the wineries have been very good about identifying specific pairings of their wines with particular foods. And so I would guess that they would do that.
Interesting.
Just a touching little thing. My mother loved chocolate. She was one of those like your husband. So at Valentine's and Easter, those were a lovely gift to give her. She had dementia, and deep in her dementia, I would bring her a little candy kiss. and she would glow. I mean, that was still important to her. And she'd smile and, you know,
Did the kissing sound.
Yeah.
Aw.
Beautiful little story, Linda. Thank you for sharing that. Ben's grandmother lived to be 103, I think. But when she was 99, she went for her annual physical. She was in very good health, lived independently in her own apartment. And her cholesterol was up a little bit, her LDL. And so her primary care physician was reviewing with her diet. And she mentioned to him that she ate one piece of chocolate every night. And he suggested that she stop eating her one chocolate every night at age 99. So when she went back at age 100, her LDL was a little bit higher. And he said, oh, forget my advice. Just eat as much chocolate as you want. Yes.
My mother is 95 at the moment, and she likes her chocolate. And she has instructed my brother and me that when we find her cold, we are to put chocolate in her hands. She used to be buried with chocolate.
She said to me she wanted to die with the smell of chocolate on her breath.
Oh. Well, thank you for your sharing. It's been fun to do this program again. It's been 4 years since I've done it, so I enjoyed dusting it off and presenting it again.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have my husband look at this online. He was disappointed. I think if we actually had chocolate here, he would have come along and been in the audience.
Well, you know what? We've got leftover
We
from
have
Christmas, and it's in the refrigerator. But I don't think we better put it out. Mice will get it. I'd rather have it. I'd rather eat it myself with the stuff on top.
I'm sure it was nice.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.